So guys, this is the story of a 15-year-old high school student named Ichigo Kurosaki. While most kids his age are busy grinding BGMI or trying way too hard to impress girls, our boy Ichigo has been seeing ghosts ever since he was a kid. And the world of Bleach is nothing like a normal world. It's filled with countless spirits wandering around humans, spirits that normal people can't even see. But for Ichigo, this was never anything unusual. Seeing ghosts had basically become part of his everyday life, and honestly, that's what always made him different from everyone else. But Ichigo's life is about to change completely, because very soon, he's going to meet Rukia Kuchiki, a girl who looks completely normal at first, but is actually a Soul Reaper. And from that moment on, Ichigo's journey as a Soul Reaper officially begins. At the start of the story, we see mysterious monsters descending from the sky. Their spiritual presence is so terrifying that a small girl can sense their power from far away. She immediately realizes that something really bad is about to happen. The next day, Ichigo is out beating up a group of thugs, but surprisingly, he's not doing it to look cool or act tough. The reason he's angry is actually pretty emotional. Those thugs had destroyed an offering that was left for the spirit of a little girl. That girl had died in a car accident at the exact same spot just a few days earlier, and Ichigo absolutely hated the idea of someone disrespecting a soul even after death. So he forces the thugs to apologize to the spirit, and the moment they see how serious and angry Ichigo is, their confidence completely disappears. For the first time, they realize that underneath Ichigo's rough attitude, he's actually a really emotional and caring person. After the thugs run away, the spirit of the little girl suddenly appears in front of Ichigo. She thanks him sincerely, because even after dying, this was the first time someone had truly understood her feelings. And this is where we officially learn that Ichigo can genuinely see spirits. And this isn't some new ability either. He's had this power since childhood. Ichigo comforts the little girl and assures her that nobody will bother her anymore. Then he tells her to rest peacefully. After that, Ichigo heads back home, but the second he opens the front door, his father, Isshin Kurosaki, comes flying in with a kick straight to his face. Now, in any other anime, this would probably be some emotional family reunion scene, but this is the Kurosaki family. Here, love is expressed through full-on WWE finishing moves. Isshin starts lecturing Ichigo about always staying alert, even inside his own house. But Ichigo isn't the type to just sit there and take it, so he immediately starts fighting back. And somehow, this entire father-son battle feels completely normal to the rest of the family. Ichigo also has two younger sisters, Yuzu and Karin. Yuzu tries to calm everyone down and get them to eat dinner peacefully, because honestly, she's probably the only normal person living in this house. Meanwhile, Karin is just casually enjoying the chaos. To her, this daily fight is basically how the two of them bond. But then, suddenly, Ichigo notices a ghost standing behind him, and that's when we find out Karin can see spirits too. The funny part is that she's not even scared. She casually admits that she can see ghosts. She just doesn't believe in them. Now, imagine being that ghost for a second. Bro got acknowledged and denied at the exact same time. That spirit probably started questioning its entire existence right there. Taking advantage of Ichigo getting distracted, Isshin grabs him and slams him into the ground. Then he starts explaining fighting techniques like some martial arts master training his student. But to Ichigo, this whole thing is completely insane, because apparently his father skipped every normal parenting guide ever written. Eventually, Ichigo storms off to his room in frustration, and the moment he leaves, Karin immediately starts scolding Isshin, because thanks to him, Ichigo didn't even eat dinner. But Isshin keeps acting innocent. According to him, he was just showing fatherly love. Then, suddenly, the mood gets emotional. Isshin stands in front of a picture of his late wife and starts crying dramatically, complaining that nobody in this house respects him anymore. The next morning, the news reports a mysterious explosion near a train station, and hearing this instantly gives Ichigo a weird feeling, because the location is really close to his house. After that, he heads to school, but on the way there, suddenly he hears the sound of something terrifying nearby, and just seconds later, a massive explosion shakes the entire city. Ichigo immediately rushes towards the scene, but when he finally arrives, even he freezes in shock.
shock. Standing in front of him is a horrifying monster, and its entire focus is locked on the spirit of the same little girl Ichigo protected earlier. The creature's appearance is so terrifying that any normal person would panic instantly, and for the first time in his life, Ichigo realizes that not every spirit in this world is harmless.
The little girl is trembling in fear as she desperately tries to get Ichigo to run away, and without wasting another second, Ichigo starts running with her. But the entire time, only one question is spinning around in his head. What the hell even is this monster? Because this thing isn't some normal creature. It's actually a hollow, a terrifying spirit that feeds on human souls. And right now, its target is that little girl. While they're running, the girl suddenly trips and falls to the ground, and now the hollow is charging toward her at full speed. With its massive body and horrifying mask-like face, it's painfully obvious that this thing has no intention of letting her survive. But then suddenly, a dark figure appears out of nowhere, and in the very next second, a girl materializes in midair. Black Soul Reaper robes, a giant sword in her hand, and absolutely zero fear on her face. This was Rukia Kuchiki. The moment she appears, she slices the hollow down in a single attack, and then vanishes just as quickly as she came. Ichigo is left completely stunned. His brain genuinely cannot process what he just witnessed. But the weirdest part of all, nobody else saw her, because normal humans can't see hollows, and they definitely can't see Soul Reapers either. So to everyone nearby, it just looked like some random mysterious explosion happened. That night, Ichigo can't stop thinking about the strange girl he saw earlier, and then suddenly, his bedroom window flies open, and the exact same girl casually climbs straight into his room. At this point, Ichigo is completely off guard, because from his perspective, some random girl just broke into his house like this was totally normal behavior. But Rukia completely ignores him and immediately starts searching around the room. She can sense some kind of spiritual presence nearby. Naturally, Ichigo thinks this whole situation is insanely weird, so in frustration, he actually tries to attack her. But then Rukia suddenly freezes because she realizes something impossible. Ichigo can see her, and that is definitely not normal. A regular human should never be able to see a Soul Reaper, which means there's clearly something different about Ichigo. After that, Rukia finally explains who she really is. She's a Soul Reaper from Soul Society. Her job is to destroy hollows and guide lost souls peacefully to the afterlife. And little by little, Ichigo starts realizing that the monster he saw earlier wasn't just some hallucination. That thing was real. But even then, he still doesn't fully trust Rukia. Meanwhile, Rukia is getting increasingly annoyed with Ichigo's attitude, and things get even worse when Ichigo casually treats her like some random little kid and basically tells her to go home. Yeah, that instantly destroys her patience. In the next moment, Rukia uses a magical technique and completely paralyzes Ichigo's body. Now he can't move at all. Then Rukia explains that the technique she used is called Keto, a special spell that only Soul Reapers can use. And then comes the really shocking part. Even though Rukia looks young, she's actually over 150 years old. After that, Rukia pulls out her sword, and naturally, Ichigo assumes she's about to attack him, but he quickly realizes that he was never the target. The real target is the ghost standing behind him, the same spirit Ichigo saw earlier. That soul is terrified because it thinks it's about to be sent somewhere horrible, but Rukia calmly explains that Soul Society isn't some nightmare world. It's a peaceful place where souls can finally rest. Then she uses her sword to send the spirit safely to Soul Society. At this point, Ichigo is more confused than ever, so Rukia finally starts explaining how this entire world actually works. According to her, there are two kinds of spirits: peaceful souls and dangerous souls like hollows. Hollows hunt human spirits like predators, and the job of a Soul Reaper is to guide good souls to Soul Society while eliminating hollows before they can hurt anyone. Although honestly, Rukia's explanation isn't even the funniest part. It's the terrible drawing she makes while explaining everything. The thing genuinely looks like it was drawn by a third grader, so naturally Ichigo starts roasting her art skills immediately. And in response, Rukia grabs a marker and draws a mustache all over his face. The chemistry between these two instantly makes the scene way more entertaining. But then suddenly, that same hollow outside senses something. It can feel the presence of multiple human souls. And now, instead of chasing the little girl, it starts moving to a different location. At the same time, Ichigo hears a strange sound nearby. He instantly realizes there's another hollow around, so he tells Rukia to go deal with it. But this time, Rukia's expression suddenly changes. She can't sense the hollow's spiritual pressure at all. It's almost like some massive force is hiding its presence completely. And then suddenly, Rukia feels an overwhelmingly dangerous spiritual pressure. Rukia suddenly senses an unbelievably dangerous spiritual pressure.
pressure. And just by looking at her expression, you could instantly tell that the situation had become extremely serious. According to her, there was no way a normal hollow should possess this much spiritual energy, but the scariest part was she hadn't even sensed this energy before now. Then, suddenly, Ichigo's younger sister Yuzu arrives, injured and terrified. She's shaking in fear while desperately begging Ichigo to save Karen. The second Ichigo hears that, his entire expression changes. But there's one huge problem. He's still trapped by Rukia's Kido spell. His body can't even move. And for the first time, Ichigo genuinely starts panicking, because now this wasn't about some random spirit anymore. His own family was in danger, so he immediately begs Rukia to release him. Without wasting any time, Rukia rushes outside, but the moment she sees what's happening, even she looks shocked. The hollow has already grabbed Karen. Its massive skeletal arms are wrapped tightly around her. While Karen screams in fear and pain, Rukia instantly pulls out her sword and prepares to fight. But somehow, Ichigo manages to get there too. Rukia immediately tries to stop him, because as far as she's concerned, a normal human stands absolutely no chance against a hollow. But at that moment, logic means nothing to Ichigo. All he sees is his little sister in danger, and then his eyes lock onto Karen, still trapped in the hollow's hands, desperately struggling for help. That was the exact moment Ichigo completely snapped. He puts every ounce of strength into his body and literally breaks Rukia's Kido spell by force. And seeing this leaves Rukia completely stunned, because for a normal human to break a Soul Reaper's Kido should have been basically impossible. But Ichigo had already entered full rage mode. He immediately grabs a nearby chair and charges straight at the hollow. Now honestly, watching a regular high school kid run toward a giant nightmare monster with a wooden chair sounds incredibly stupid on paper, but somehow Ichigo commits to this plan with 100% confidence. Unfortunately, reality hits hard. The hollow sends him flying with a single punch. Ichigo crashes violently into the ground, his entire body screaming in pain. But at the same moment, Rukia sees an opening. She attacks the hollow's leg and successfully frees Karen from its grip. After that, Rukia finally realizes something important. This hollow was never after some random person. Its true target from the beginning was Ichigo. She realizes that the spiritual energy inside him is abnormally powerful, and ever since Ichigo came into contact with that dead girl's spirit earlier, his spiritual power had fully awakened. Now, his soul itself was attracting hollows. The moment Ichigo hears this, it completely destroys him emotionally. He realizes the little girl getting attacked, his sisters getting hurt, all of it happened because of him, and now guilt and anger are both boiling inside him. So Ichigo walks directly toward the hollow. At this point, he's not even scared anymore. He's literally using himself as bait just to protect his family. But right when the hollow is about to attack Ichigo, Rukia jumps in front of him, and while saving him, she gets badly injured herself. She collapses onto the ground as blood starts pouring from her body. Even then, she still tries to explain that Ichigo is just a normal human, and against a hollow, he has no chance of surviving. But Ichigo refuses to give up. He desperately wants to find some way to fight back. That's when Rukia tells him about one final option. According to her, there's only one way left now. Ichigo has to become a Soul Reaper himself, and to do that, he must stab Rukia's Zanpakuto directly into his own chest. Now honestly, hearing that sounds less like a plan and more like instant suicide, but at this point, they have no other option. Rukia explains that she'll transfer her Soul Reaper powers into Ichigo, although even she isn't fully sure if the process will actually work. But Ichigo doesn't hesitate for long, because right now, the only thing that matters is protecting his family, and in the very next moment, Ichigo drives the sword directly into his chest. Suddenly, a massive explosion of spiritual energy erupts around them. Rukia's Soul Reaper powers begin flowing straight into Ichigo, and then, for the very first time, an ordinary human becomes a Soul Reaper. Ichigo's entire appearance changes instantly. Black Soul Reaper robes, a massive Zanpakuto, and terrifying spiritual pressure pouring out of his body. At this point, he's no longer just some normal high school kid, and the second he transforms, Ichigo slices off the hollow's arm with a a single attack. Seeing this complete shocks Rukia because she only intended to give Ichigo half of her powers, but somehow Ichigo absorbed all of them. She had never seen this much spiritual energy inside a human before, and now she's finally starting to realize Ichigo Kurosaki is definitely not ordinary. Even his Zanpakuto was far larger than the swords used by normal Soul Reapers. And then, during his very first battle as a Soul Reaper, Ichigo destroys the Hollow in a single strike, and from that moment onward, his life changes forever. The next morning, we return to the daily WWE Championship match happening inside the Kurosaki household. As usual, Isin tries to wake Ichigo up by attacking him, but this time, Ichigo casually stops the attack mid-air. Now, even he can feel that his strength has dramatically increased, and weirdly enough, Isin actually seems happy about it, almost like he already knew Ichigo had changed. Although with the way this guy constantly acts like a clown, it's impossible to tell what's really going on in his head. But then Ichigo suddenly remembers everything that happened the previous night, and immediately he starts worrying about his sisters. But the shocking part is that both Yuzu and Karen are acting completely normal, as if nothing happened at all. Later, Ichigo steps outside to check the damage around the house. That's when Isin casually explains that a drunk truck crashed straight into their home during the night, and somehow nobody in the family got hurt. Now obviously, Ichigo finds this explanation extremely suspicious, because he clearly remembers Karen being attacked by a hollow, but somehow his family has absolutely no memory of the incident, and that's when Ichigo finally realizes the truth. Rukia must have altered their memories somehow, so they wouldn't remember anything about the supernatural world.
After that, the story takes us to Ichigo's school for the first time, and here we finally get a glimpse of what his normal school life looks like. This is also where we meet Orihime Inoue and Tatsuki. Orihime is sweet, innocent, and honestly a little weird in the most adorable way possible. Meanwhile, Tatsuki is the complete opposite. Straightforward attitude, aggressive personality, and always ready to protect her friends no matter what. A little later, Ichigo finally arrives at school too, but while heading toward his classroom, he accidentally bumps directly into Orihime. The poor girl instantly falls to the ground. Now, obviously, Tatsuki was never going to let Ichigo get away with that so easily. She immediately starts getting on his case because in her mind, the entire thing was clearly Ichigo's fault. So Ichigo awkwardly apologizes and reaches out his hand to help Orihime up. But the second Orihime sees his hand, she suddenly turns completely red from embarrassment, and then she immediately runs away without saying a single word. At this point, Ichigo has that classic confused anime protagonist expression on his face. Bro genuinely has no idea what he even did wrong. After that, Ichigo heads into class and starts hanging out with his friends, and among his friend group is that one guy who's somehow always ready to say the dumbest thing imaginable at any moment. But then suddenly, Ichigo looks toward the classroom door, and his brain practically short circuits, because standing there is Rukia Kuchiki, and somehow things get even crazier. She's now officially a transfer student at his school. Ichigo is completely stunned, because less than 24 hours ago, this girl was out there fighting giant monsters with a sword, and now she's casually walking around in a school uniform like a completely normal student. Rukia acts in front of the entire class like she's happy to meet Ichigo for the first time, but obviously that's not what's really happening. While pretending to shake his hand, Rukia secretly threatens him. Written directly on her hand is a warning telling Ichigo not to create any scene in class unless he wants his life ruined immediately. And the second Ichigo reads it, his soul almost leaves his body again. So, naturally, he drags Rukia outside the classroom to question her. Now, the biggest thing confusing Ichigo is the fact that everyone else can somehow see Rukia too, because technically, she's still supposed to be a Soul Reaper. That's when Rukia explains something called a Gigai. A Gigai is basically a temporary human body that allows Soul Reapers to live among normal humans, and right now, Rukia is using one herself. But honestly, that isn't even the biggest problem anymore. The real issue is that Rukia can no longer return to Soul Society, because during the previous night, Ichigo accidentally absorbed almost all of her Soul Reaper powers, which means she's now practically just a normal soul, and because of that, she's basically stuck living in the human world for now. Rukia then tells Ichigo very clearly that until her powers return, he'll have to take over her duties as a Soul Reaper, but Ichigo is absolutely not happy about this idea. From his perspective, what happened last night was only because his family was in danger. He has zero interest in risking his life for random strangers. As far as he's concerned, fighting hollows is not his job. But Rukia already knows Ichigo isn't going to agree so easily. So she puts on a special glove, and in the very next second, she forcibly pulls Ichigo's soul out of his body. Now, imagine just standing there peacefully, and suddenly someone
someone yanks your soul straight out of your body like it's nothing. Yeah, Ichigo completely loses it. He genuinely starts thinking he died, but Rukia explains that his body is still perfectly safe. Right now, only his soul has separated into Soul Reaper form. After that, Rukia takes Ichigo with her, and this is where we also learn a little about Soul Society's technology. Rukia carries a special device that looks kind of like a phone, but it's actually a communication gadget used by Soul Society. Through it, Soul Reapers receive missions, orders, and the locations of nearby hollows, and right on cue, the device suddenly alerts them of a hollow nearby, which basically means Ichigo's Soul Reaper duties have officially begun. So the two of them immediately head toward the location, and once they arrive, they discover a spider-type hollow chasing a small girl. But then comes the twist. That little girl is actually a soul too, meaning she had already died before this, and now the hollow is trying to devour her. The moment Ichigo sees the terrified girl running for her life, his entire attitude changes instantly, because even if he refuses to call himself a hero, there's no way he can just stand there and watch a helpless soul get killed. And that's exactly why, without thinking twice, Ichigo charges straight toward the hollow.